with you. Okay, so I believe we are now ready, so we can call the meeting to order whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. I'd like to call the December 10th, 2024 meeting of the Land Division Committee to order. We have a couple of people attending today by Zoom. I think they can see us, but we can't see them, but we can hear you. If that is a problem for you, you could ask for a deferral, but I'd like to proceed with the two applications we have. Anyway, unless I hear something different, that's what we plan to do. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interests? I have none. Doug? Steve? No? Okay. So I have a motion that the minutes of the Land Division Committee held on November 19th, 2024 be approved as circulated. All in favor? That's carried. And I have another motion that the agenda be adopted as presented. Again, all in favor? That too is carried. I think we can move on to our first application, Cindy. You want to introduce it?
Okay, thank you. So our first application is B24112, and it is for the creation of a new lot in the Township of Drummond North Elmsley, geographic Township of Drummond. This is for Martin White, and this is property located off of Highway 7. The application is to create a 0.6 hectare residential landholding with an existing dwelling and garage located at 15855 Highway 7. And the retained lands will contain 5.769 hectare approximately commercial landholding with frontage and access on concession 5B as well as Highway 7. There's an existing shop and 4 garages located at the property that will stay with the retained lands. This application, because it's on a Highway 7, we did receive comments from MTO. MTO did require that the commercial entrance be removed. The comments from MTO were included in the package. I do know Mr. White has been working with the MTO to see if there's any flexibility with that condition. So I have amended the condition relating to the MTO clearance to be a little bit flexible in case he is able to receive some concessions from MTO. The official plan policy for Drummond North Elmsley and MTO policy does require that when there's secondary access through a concession road or a township road, that the access be through that. So MTO is requiring that the access be off of the concession road instead of Highway 7. The other concern with this one was there was some MDS. There's some local barns in the area within the 750. We didn't have the MDS information with the application, but Martin has provided us with that information just yesterday. I've run the preliminary figures and there's no issue with the setbacks, although the township hasn't yet vetted that, so I've kept the condition in, but I'm not anticipating any issues with respect to the MDS. So other than that, I think everything's set out in the planning report. We are recommending conditional approval subject to the conditions in the report.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. Martin, are you with us today by Zoom?
I am. Thank you.
Okay, so we can't see you, but that's okay. I think I remember what you look like. So I'll get you affirmed. Do you solemnly affirm that the evidence to be given by you in these proceedings shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Martin. Is there anyone else that might be joining it? No, there's no one else by Zoom. Okay, so we've got the report and the recommendations. Martin, do you have any additional information you would like to add for our benefit?
Yes, I do actually. And while I realize what I've been advised in regards to the whole MTO thing and the county being a lower tier, I have a significant issue with their recommendation. And I do note it was worded, I believe, as a recommendation. The entrance on Highway 7 has been here since the highway was built back in the 1930s. The entrance off of 5B I put in approximately 10 years ago after I purchased the property. There was no access to 5B off of this property. When it was put in, Drummond had said that they didn't want it to become a commercial access because I had access on the highway. the fact that they're suggesting this be removed makes no sense to me. We would be removing a very simple and easy access into the property and instead turning it all back onto concession 5B, which is not a full width road in terms of, it is a little bit narrow. It's also gravelled, it's not paved, and you'd be putting the traffic, in a residential area. All we're doing in this situation literally is drawing an imaginary line in the dirt saying, here's the farmhouse property and here's the White's maintenance land property. We're not changing the use. We're not changing the vehicular traffic. We're not changing the entrances in any form whatsoever. So to remove that entrance then is going to affect my business, my street side sales. I sell firewood, I sell dock, people park on the side of the road or in their driveway and go look at this stuff or pick up bundles of firewood. Nobody's going to want to step across a ditch through water or whatever to come pick up a bag of firewood. So it's, it's going to affect my income, my livelihood. Not to mention that people are now going to have to drive at least a mile out of their way down to 5B, back up the road, back in here. I just don't see any common sense to this request. I've spoken with MTO people who can't speak because they're still employed, saying that there is no reason to do it. I did run into MTO here before on this property where they faulted me for having water run off into the Highway 7 ditch and for the ramp that was built up to the barn again back, 100 years ago. And finally, after about 6 months, I was able to get in touch with somebody in the MTO who countermanded the order given to me by some overzealous employee. And I feel that this is kind of the same thing. There's no common sense reason that I can think of for them to get rid of this, especially when they literally just 2 or 3 weeks ago granted a new entrance to the property down at the trailer place on closer to Perth, who now have 2 commercial entrances within a couple hundred yards of each other. So I would ask that the committee consider this and allow it to proceed without the MTO requirement. You do have the authority to override that request, and I would ask that common sense prevail and that you do that. Also, I wish to mention that it's going to cost a whole bunch of money for the MTO to take the entrance out, which doesn't need to be spent. So that's basically my comment.
Okay, thanks, Martin. We normally don't override MTO's request. Have you had numerous conversations with them? Are you at an end in trying to satisfy this directly with them, Martin?
Well, so the simple answer is no. Nobody will call me. I've sent 4 emails, 5 emails in, and I've gotten 2 emails back basically saying the same thing. So at this point, they don't seem to be willing to have a discussion. They don't seem to be willing to talk, which is what I ran into, whenever that guy came before and, with the water issue. They just didn't want to talk about it. It's like, we're God. This is what you're doing. We don't care if you like it or not. And it just doesn't make any sense. If I don't sever this lot, the entrance stays there. So that makes no sense. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I'm wondering if we should be considering deferring it to give you another shot at MTO, or do you want us to proceed to try and make a decision based on the information we have before us?
I'm not opposed to a deferral. I guess my question would be is that going to change your minds? I mean, what would it take for the committee to say, you know what, Mr. White has a reasonable approach and MTO isn't being reasonable? I mean, what to you guys makes a reasonable approach to this? You do, as I said, I believe you do have the authority to override, and I understand you don't typically do that because they are, an upper tier, but there is a situation where common sense has to come into play at some point.
Yeah, and of course, you can appeal the conditions if we do approve it with that condition in there. I believe that's still allowed under the Planning Act. As the applicant, you could make that appeal, and nobody wants to go to a hearing over something like that. So, I mean, we like to see it resolved if we could. Stephen, do you have any comments on this?
Well, yeah, on that, I have another question too, but on that, on the severance, where does the lot line of the new severance come out in respect to that driveway?
So it would be pretty much where the hydro pole is. So it's in between, you know where the tower dock is?
No, I see the driveway that's there and I see
So it'd
yellow
be
trees.
50 feet. Yeah, give or take 50 feet to the west.
Okay. So the driveway's 50 feet in the commercial lot.
The property line would be about 50 feet from the driveway. The driveway is right beside the barn or the shop. So maybe 75 to 100 feet from the barn building.
Okay, so there, is it the fact there's two entrances or the fact it's the commercial entrance?
I think their issue is it's the commercial entrance.
Because there's lots of commercial entrances. Like, I'm just wondering, what about putting the entrance to the house at the back? I don't know. As far as that condition, there's two choices. We can pass it or deny it, and then MTO decides it's very important to them, and they might not like it because it could be precedent setting. If we don't pass it, they may appeal the decision. So that's a tough one.
It's possible, but I mean, you've got my place, which has a residential, then a commercial. Then you skip down the road and you've got a residential and a commercial. So it's not by having what I have here, it's not precedent setting anything. I realize you overriding, they may not want to, may not like that, but by approving the existing and allowing me to keep the commercial entrance, we're not changing anything. We're leaving things exactly as they are, and it's no different than the next property down.
Yeah, I
And
realize
then-
that, but what sometimes they do is they say, here's a chance to make something that we think is better. Let's take this opportunity to do it. That's the mind there. I know it's not going to make any difference. So that one's up in the air. But here, the other question I got is in condition 2, is it include, I don't have it in front of me, I've lost it. Does it include setbacks for buildings, septic systems, and wells? Is that included in condition 2? I'd be a little concerned if there was a septic system wasn't far enough back from the lot line. Has that all been checked out?
So we added that into condition 2 because the boundary between the commercial and the severed lot is there are some buildings that are very close there, and I don't. Oh, can you turn off? We want to make sure that those building setbacks can be met through the zoning bylaw. I believe, and Martin can confirm, I believe the well is fairly close to that boundary line, but the septic systems are not. They're a little bit further away from that boundary, but the well is close, I believe. Can you confirm that, Martin?
Yeah, the well will probably end up being 15 to 20 feet from the property line. There are buildings that will be within what is normally, I believe, a side yard setback, 3 meters or something like that, or 3 feet. Well, I don't remember what the numbers are. And the septic is in the Perth side of the house, so it's well away from any property line. That's part of the reason why we've made the lot as large as I did. Rather than just going the 1 acre, I made it 2 and 2.5 or 2, something like that.
So has a variance application been filed yet?
For
Setbacks in the buildings?
We
I don't-
anticipate that there won't need to be one. It's just that if the setbacks do show that they can't be met, then that would be a necessary step.
Okay, that answers that question.
Doug, have you got any questions?
No, I think that Martin has some very strong arguments versus the MTO. And I think that we should give him a chance, as has been suggested to have further discussions, defer the application. But I think he's got some very strong arguments against removing that entrance. And so, but again, let's not invite an appeal by either party, the MTO or the applicant or Martin. Let's see if we can get it ironed out by further discussions between Martin and the MTO by a deferral. And if he can't, then I'm certainly of the opinion that Martin has some very strong arguments. It is an existing entrance. He's not changing anything. But that's my opinion, the deferral.
Okay, Cindy, can you explain to me, does MTO have the right of appeal for this? If we take that condition out, could they appeal the decision?
Yeah, I believe as a public body, they would be able to appeal.
Okay, and of course, Martin can appeal if we make a decision that's not in his favor. So, I mean, this could end up being decided by somebody else if we can't get the two parties to come to an agreeable conclusion. Do you think it's worth another shot going back at them, Martin? Is there anything that we could do to help get them to listen to you?
I am all ears to anybody who can help me in this situation. I have reached out to Mr. Jordan's office, thinking that he might be able to help. I've not heard back from them. Like I said, I reached out to the guy that helped me with the water situation when he was the MTO officer for this area, in charge of the highway corridor, and he made the common sense decision that, you know, the guy that was asking for the water was asking for silly stuff. Unfortunately, he's not in this area anymore, and so he has no authority to do anything. But he agreed with me that, you know, what they're asking for doesn't make sense, but at the same time, the MTO doesn't have a whole lot of common sense sometimes, and definitely no sense. So I'm more than happy to get anybody's help on how to, again, sort of come to a common sense solution on this. But they basically just reiterate over and over. And I mean, they even said that, you know, what's going on at a different property doesn't set a precedent. And I was like, well, you're telling me I can't have a residential and a commercial, and you want to take mine away, and then you're going to give one to the new trailer dealership? Like, that makes no sense.
Martin,
So-
do you happen to know the trailer park? Do they have access onto a different township road, or are they only
No.
on Highway 7? So
No,
that
they're
might be
only
the
on Highway 7.
distinguishing feature, is that they don't have any other option. And I think MTO and Drummond North Elmsley policies, unfortunately, because there is that option off the township road, that's sort of the difference between your property and the trailer property.
Right. Well, I understand if I was asking for a new entrance, that they would say, well, no, you don't need a new entrance. You have an option. I'm not asking for anything from them at all. And in fact, you know, really, we don't, if it's not for the entrance, they have no comment in any way, shape, or form. So to force me to remove a valuable asset to the livelihood of my business, you know, it doesn't make any sense. And I can't, they've not given me any reason for it. You know, they haven't said, oh, it's going to increase traffic or it's slows the road down. I mean, the reality is taking out my entrance going to speed traffic up? I doubt it. You know, so what is the basis?
Martin, did you get a commercial entrance from MTO, or did you buy the property with that entrance already in place?
I bought it with, there was an entrance here and we just started using it. So I have no idea what it was defined as prior to, you know, whether it was commercial, residential, or whatever, but I've been out here now 18 or almost 20 years. And we've been using this same entrance the whole time, both entrances equally. And in fact, this summer, they paved the entrance for me. They brought in new gravel and paved the whole thing. And I didn't even ask them to. They just showed up when they were doing the highway and did all the commercial entrances along here. So they think it's a commercial entrance, obviously.
Okay. My other, I guess, thought here, and I'm just throwing this out, is if the boundary was reconfigured so that the commercial lot had no access on the fifth concession, then they wouldn't be able to ask to change that location. Have you given that any thought?
Nobody proposed that. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess that could be done. I'd have to talk to further with Mr. McGlade, I guess, because we had been discussing, because this property is actually entitled to 2 more severances, but because we don't have access on 7, he said I'd have to come up with some other form of access. And we had discussed a condominium road coming off of 5B. And that would essentially cut off the commercial access. So I would probably discuss that with the Lanark County planning staff too, I guess, and see if that's how that might work. That's an interesting idea.
Well, I think it might be worth a shot. I'm not sure that MTO would be supportive, but if you had no other access for the commercial property you're creating but the highway, and I don't know how that messes up your operation, Martin. I'm just saying that might be a way of solving this problem, because I don't think it matters a whole lot on the residential component, whether it goes on to Highway 7 or if they make you close that driveway and put it out the back, it probably makes no difference.
Yeah, and I
Again,
don't think
that would be up to you, but it might be worthwhile investigating that and giving you a month to do that. If you want, we're prepared to try and make a decision. It just may not be the one you want, and then it's going to be appealed and there'll be a hearing, and we all know that that's just a waste of time and a lot of money. So,
Yeah.
did-
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely open to it, and if waiting another month isn't going to change much of anything, I don't think so. Yeah, if it sounds like maybe that's the best way to do and try and get some more, movement to it. Now, I guess my only other question, Cindy would be able to answer better. The way she's worded it, I got the impression when we were talking that she worded it in such a way that you could go ahead and make the decision based on the wording. I don't know. I'll let Cindy explain it to you.
Well, the condition is just requiring MTO to sign off. So whether they sign off with leaving the entrance there or removing it, that would be, so we could go ahead and approve that on that basis. But I think you have less clout if that's done. Michael,
Okay.
you thought you had a comment perhaps?
So in a past life, at a previous municipality, we had a provincial highway through our municipality as well. And these issues came up from time to time. I generally had good luck trying to find middle grounds when I was kind of working at the director level. And to Martin's point, maybe, he's just not getting to the right staff that are empowered to make decisions that might deviate in some way or not from policy. So I don't know the current director, but I do have their contact here. I was able to look it up, and maybe I'll just make the overture under the position that, the committee sees both sides of this issue and would like kind of a subsequent review completed by somebody higher up in the MTO and give us a little more definitive direction. And if we do that during the next month, during the deferral period, we might be able to achieve something that Martin may not be able to do otherwise, just on his own, speaking to the operations level staff.
Okay, so I think we have some good reasons to defer if you're in agreement, Martin.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I appreciate everybody's willingness to help make this transition somehow. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so can I have a motion to defer this application?
I so move, let's defer this until the next meeting in January.
Stephen? Okay, all in favor of deferral? So that's what we're doing, is we're deferring it. I won't specify that it'll be at the meeting in January, because you may end up getting close to a decision before the meeting. It'll be the next meeting that you want it brought up at. How's that, Martin?
That works perfectly for me. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And sorry we couldn't make an application or make a decision today, but I think this is best for everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate all your willingness to listen to what I had to say as opposed to just going with what the powers that be think should happen.
Okay, well, you have a Merry Christmas.
You too, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Cindy?
Okay, so our next group of applications is B24, 114, 115, and 116. This is for a numbered Canadian company for 3 new lots in Drummond North Elmsley, just north of the town of Perth boundary on Highway 511. These 3 lots are to create a 0.436 hectare, 0.775 hectare, and 1.6845 hectare lots off of Highway 511. The retained lands will contain a approximately 20 hectare residential land holding, which has 2 existing multiple residential buildings, each with 4 units. I think it's called the Shamrock Apartment Building, and a storage building. There is some constraints on the property due to the Blueberry Creek and Blueberry Marsh area and some woodlands. There was a Hydro-G report submitted that was peer reviewed and came back with good results. There was an EIS that was undertaken. At the time that I did up the planning report, we did not have the peer review, the comments addressed from the peer review by the biologist. However, the applicant did send that to us this morning. I believe Mike has taken a quick peek at it. We've sent it to the township as well. It appears to address most of the concerns, if not all, but we're proposing to leave the condition in the draft conditions regarding the EIS additional work just until we have a chance to review with the township to see if there's any concerns. Other than that, there was some questions raised by adjoining landowner St. Mary's Cement just south in the town of Perth regarding the concerns with the industrial uses. Tracy Zander did reach out to them, and we believe that they are satisfied with the recommendations that she had made and the conditions that we've put in to address the noise and odor concerns. He is here, so if he has any concerns, he can address them. But other than that, we are recommending the provisional consent of these applications subject to the conditions set out in the report.
Okay, thank you. And do we have people joining us virtually?
So we have the applicant, Zadik. I'm sorry, I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. And then Colin Evans.
Okay, and do both of Zadik and Colin, do you both wish to get sworn in?
I'm okay. I just called in to listen, so it's Colin.
Okay, thank you, Colin. And Zadik, did you want to affirm?
Yeah, I can do that. By the way, my name is Zadek, not Zadik.
Okay, Zadek, I'm sorry. I'm from
That's
Lanark
okay.
County, so I have trouble with names that aren't Irish or Scots, generally speaking. But even some of them I have trouble with. But so
Fair enough.
do you solemnly affirm that the evidence to be given by you in these proceedings shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. So we've been through all the package that was sent out that you also have a copy of. Do you have any additional information that you would like to provide the committee before we start asking questions?
No, I don't think so.
Zadek, have you had a chance to take a look at the conditions that were proposed by the staff?
Yeah.
And do you have any questions or concerns on any of those?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it over to my committee members. Doug, do you have any questions?
No, if the applicant is satisfied with the proposed conditions, I'm happy with them as well.
Stephen?
No questions, concerns. Looks good to me.
Yeah, I went through all the reports. It seems that there's been a lot of homework done here, and it looks like there's been a fair bit of effort put into it. I'm satisfied with everything as well. And if there are, do you have any more comments that you wish to make as well, Zadek?
No, I don't. I think there's a lot of information, as you mentioned. So,
Cindy?
One thing I did intend to just mention, like the conditions for 114 is slightly different than the conditions for 115 and 116. I'm not sure if you were wondering why that was, but what we did is in condition number 9, which for B24 114, it's the rezoning requirement, which does apply to all 3 of the lots, but for the for B 24-114, that one will also include any implementation setbacks required for the class 1 industrial setbacks. So that is unique to B 24-114. And then the other change for 115 and 116 was the mutual driveway potential easement for the common entrance off of 511. So those are the only two differences between the conditions between the three applications.
Right. I might add something actually now that you bring that up, because the 114, that's the one that's neighboring Paul Frizzell.
That's correct.
And I've always mentioned to Tracy that it's the intention. We'll see, of course, if it pans out that way. But it's the intention that Paul Frizzell wants to buy that lot, just because he lives next door and it would help him. He currently rents about a half acre from me, and so yeah, so that's the situation with that particular lot.
And I did speak with Mr. Frizzell on the phone. He did call in early on when we provided notice just to get a little bit more information. He had no concerns. And generally just was asking about the lot in terms of once it was created, what it would be able, like, was it to be created for residential use. So I did provide him with that information and gave him notice of the meeting, but I haven't heard from him since.
Right.
One interesting thing, and I didn't realize this until after I spoke with him, is for some bizarre reason, there's a little sliver of land between his property and your property.
Oh,
Throw that out there for interesting information.
okay. Weird.
Can that boundary be amended throughout the process as he moves forward?
I'd have to look at it, but I believe when I dug into it just a little bit at the time, it was owned by somebody from the 50s or 60s. So it's not in either Frizzell's ownership or the current applicant's ownership. It's just this parcel that I think got forgotten from a transfer.
Okay, we'll leave that one for the lawyers and surveyors to figure out. I won't try to deal with that. And I see that for that application we're just talking about, 114, it's the zoning is to be zoned in accordance with the intended use. So if it was to be purchased by the adjacent owner, then that zoning would be the appropriate category for what they want to do.
Yeah, right now the entire property is zoned for the multi-residential. So we would keep the multi-residential one on the retained land where the apartment building is, and then the three lots. And Brady at the township, I don't think he confirmed which zone he would put it in, whether it would be rural or residential, but it would be a zone that was appropriate for the density in that area.
Okay, so I do have a motion here that's moved by Doug James, second by Stephen Lewis, that application B24-114 through to 116, so 115, 116 as well, be approved subject to the conditions presented in the planning report. Any discussion? All in favor? So that motion has been carried. You'll be notified by email and in the mail of the decisions, and I guess not in the mail, but we'll send it. They'll just never get out.
Well, definitely email. The mail may not come for a while.
Okay, well, thank you for attending, even though we couldn't see you.
Thank you.
So we have nothing coming back as a deferred applications or confidential reports. There's nothing in that regard.
No, nothing. The Radmore file from last month, he's not in a position to bring that back yet. I spoke with him recently, so he potentially in January, we may be able to bring that back.
Okay, so the only thing I have of other business, and it's left blank here, but it says that be appointed as chair of the Land Division Committee for the upcoming year of 2025. Did you want to do that, Doug? I'm happy to let you do that if you want.
No, you're perfect as the chair.
Stephen? No? All right. Well, I'll sign it and put my name in there. How's that? And I guess we can have the meeting adjourned at 11:35 a.m.
Before we adjourned, I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at the dates in the proposed meeting schedule. If anyone had any issues with any of the dates, we can look at changing them, but
June 24th is the last Tuesday in June is, I think June the 24th is the June meeting. Is it? Yes. Is that for sure? A reason?
Not in July.
sorry, yes, that's an error. So it would be normally the 10th of June, right? Yeah. So we'll make that amendment.
Because there was no meeting in July.
No.
There's no meeting in there's no meeting in July. But
That's right.
so you still on it June.
Well, maybe if everyone's okay, we'll put it on for the 17th to sort of cut that a little bit in half. And again, it will depend on whether we have any applications that are pending to come forward in any event. We'll just have them in as placeholders. But if everyone's okay with June 17th instead of the 24th, we'll make that change. So good. Okay.